Hey, welcome everyone to my session, Maintaining the People Part. My name is Chrissy and I'm a GitHub star and dual Microsoft MVP awarded for my work in both SQL Server and PowerShell. You can find me on Twitter at @CL or on GitHub at Potato Quality because they didn't have my username, and who cares? It's not like I'm going to be presenting at conferences around the world. So this talk is about the people part, and it draws on my experience building communities over the years. And as you can see here, I've been pretty pumped about community building since I was young, and I've built communities online on IRC and BBSs, and also in person within the Cajun culture and LGBT groups. So when it comes to open source, my first published project was published to freshmeat.net in September of '99. And then around that time, I went to the Linux Business Expo in Las Vegas, and I was so excited to talk to other open source people, but they were decidedly not excited to talk to me. I felt very excluded, like I was on an island. And ever since then, I've dreamt of building a welcoming and inclusive OSS community where everyone is celebrated. And I was able to achieve that with DBA Tools, which now has 207 contributors. This number blows my mind because not only did the SQL Server community come from sort of a proprietary background, but PowerShell itself is also niche. And I'm really excited to have helped to introduce so many people to open source. So when I say the people in maintaining the people part, that includes users, contributors, and maintainers. And the maintenance is really the emotional maintenance that stems from the longer relationships with contributors and maintainers. That's not to say that I don't love users. One of the reasons that this project got so popular is because it's very user-focused and the community is the customer. So we have a ton of docs. We have a logo along with some stickers because everybody loves stickers. I even built a friendly website for people who either didn't understand GitHub or were intimidated by it. And so this is an easy and familiar kind of interface. We also set up a Slack that now has over 4,000 users. It's corporate friendly, so people who are at work as DBAs can get into the channel and access tech support there. In addition, we also have a book to offer, and we go where the people go. So we have a YouTube channel, we're on Twitter, and also we do live streams. So if you go to twitch.tv/DBA Tools, you can find a bunch of people that are live streaming their DBA Tools development. So when you have a lot of users and a large reach, there may be some bad behavior. And something that we've done as the DBA Tools and that we recommend is to create a plan. And within our plan, the first step for non-abusive but nevertheless bad behavior is to default to DMs to avoid public humiliation and shame. But when it comes to abusive behavior where there's no mistaking that it's abusive, that is shut down quickly. And that includes behavior that appears well-intentioned but is still bad, like complimenting a woman's looks. We let the people know that this is unwelcome and unacceptable, and that Slack, DBA Tools, and GitHub are not dating sites, and that will be our final warning. And so far, this has been effective in shutting down bad behavior, keeping out trolls, and making all users feel safe. So now, contributors. With our contributors, I'm relieved that we've attracted people who are cooperative, and I think ultimately that the lead really sets the tone. And as a maintainer, I've been explicit about the inclusive and welcoming community that I've wanted to build. So something that I've learned, the first thing that I've learned with community building, and this goes as far back as my first bulletin board, is that people will come and go. And if we're fortunate, they'll come back. But coming back should never be expected. And this part breaks my heart. Some people, when they leave, will actually feel guilty about it, so I let them off the hook and fast. I've had people who are new parents that would be like, hey, I'm so sorry for not being involved. And that just, again, it really broke my heart. And I'll let them know immediately every single thing that they do for us is voluntary. And we love when they contribute, but it's absolutely not expected. The next thing is that I really try to assume good intent, and it's important to understand and accommodate for the differences in communication styles between cultures and proceed as usual so long as the person isn't using abusive language. I come from a culture that's overtly friendly and very verbose, but there are other cultures that might be a bit terse, and to me that can come across as rude. But what I've learned from this project is that somebody could be super nice, super well-intentioned, but they just have a different style of communication. So that's something that I always do try to accommodate for, again, so long as it isn't abusive. Something else that I've learned on this project is that people don't always know their strengths. So if somebody is good at something like QA, teaching Git, or even regex, I've actually reached out and asked if they'd like to be the subject matter expert for their realm. And so far, everyone has appreciated being acknowledged for what they're good at, and they even become more involved in the project. And this can actually help you if you suffer from imposter syndrome, because recognizing that other people have specific strengths can actually help you accept that you have specific strengths and may not be an expert at every single thing. This happened to me as a DBA, and DBAs or database administrators are generally known for performance tuning, and it's never been an interest of mine. What I love is the automation part, but in talking to others and observing others, it seems that a lot of people who are into automation don't really like performance tuning, and that really helped me overcome my imposter syndrome. And also, in general, even though I've never been a manager, I really enjoy reading management and leadership books, and it applies incredibly well to open source maintenance. Next is involving your team in the decisions. And for me, when there is a disagreement, I try my best to change my own mind. And a lot of times it happens. So if I'm at odds with a majority of the DBA tools team, I'll literally reach out to get as many perspectives as possible to try and change my opinion. So one of my favorite parts of this open source journey was to actually create a style guide with the entire team. And you can see here, this is one of our really old Trello boards. We all work together to decide things like tabs versus spaces. And even though I'm the BDFL, or the benevolent dictator for life, which is something that we decided as a team, I was very open and very excited to have everybody's feedback and input, and our project is better for it. Something else is, I think it's really important to delegate the work and make people feel appreciated, or share the work, share the reward, share your page hits, share your exposure, share the money, and even share your PowerPoints. Even share the visibility. You could see here on the DBA tools team, I try to put as many faces to our contributors as possible. And for a SQL Server DBA, it used to be that a pre-con at Past Summit was like the pinnacle of your career. And I was invited to give a pre-con from Past, and then I tried to bring as many of the contributors along as possible. In addition, the DevOps Collective gave me $10,000 massive dollars through their Git grant, and then GitHub then doubled that through GitHub sponsors to $20,000, and I actually shared a majority of that with the team. Also, this project has helped me achieve my lifelong goal of writing a book, and whenever Manning accepted my proposal and gave me a book deal, I also shared that with other members of the team. Something else is that centralizing the party can help give others exposure. So we have like a centralized YouTube channel that has more followers than most of us, and we get to put our videos there and then get followers from that. And I know that it looks kind of ridiculous, but what you can see here is that there is a centralized place to go where you're going to find projects about SQL Server and PowerShell, and all of the different contributors can put all of their projects here and gain more exposure. So now for maintainers. After more than 5 years, DBA Tools has 3 maintainers. Yes. And this is me, Jess Pomfret, and Sean Melton. And one of the first things that I learned about inviting other maintainers to join the project is that doing so may require reassurance and expectation management. Someone may think that attendance is required, and so I do my best to let other maintainers know that their maintenance involvement, much like contributing, can come and go, because maintaining a project requires ideal situations in my experience. So what's ideal? First, home life is good. Gives you the emotional bandwidth to deal with others and set boundaries. You also have to be working reasonable hours at work. For me, I literally can't work more than 40 hours a week without permission, so that increases the amount of time that I can dedicate to the project. But I also suffer from depression and burnout, so that reduces the amount of time that I spend on the project sometimes. And overall, I let them know that it's a lot of work, but the benefits of maintaining have been life-altering for me. Not only am I making lifelong friends and speaking at conferences like this one, but it also helps fill the gaps whenever job satisfaction is lacking. So what I like to do is accept and celebrate different styles. Whenever I invited Jess onto the project, she wanted to know where is it that she fit, because Sean is more strict in his code reviews than I am. For me, I'm more relaxed in my code reviews while still maintaining quality. And I wanted to let her know that we aren't looking for somebody to fit cookie cutter, and that we literally want her to maintain her own sense of style for our project. So the next thing that I want to talk about is dealing with feeling inauthentic, which I think is inevitable for a lot of people, including me. Because for me, I try to be open, but also polished. So I was talking to a buddy, and he brought up how he feels inauthentic, that he's only showing people parts of himself. And I let him know that I was feeling the same way. But then I realized that we show our polished side all the time. Like when we go to work, we don't use the bathroom with the door open. And that conversation helped convince me even more that it's okay to only show parts of yourself unless you want to show all of yourself. That's not something I want to do because it gives me emotional hangovers. Don't worry, I'm in therapy and I accept my boundaries. And next up is dealing with guilt. And one of the things that I have guilt for is having a bad day. But that's also inevitable, because the more that you put yourself out there, the more chances there are that you'll have an imperfect or bad day. And there's also guilt with saying no to users or even to conference organizers, because part of maintaining can be presenting. And if you write a successful project, people will want you at their conferences. But I am just as happy to say yes as I am to say no. And so far, the responses have been really gracious. There's also disagreements with fellow contributors and maintainers, which I do disagree sometimes and then ask for forgiveness. Ultimately, I think that acceptance is the key to maintaining the people part. Accept yourself, accept that sometimes you got to say no, and accept that boundaries are beneficial. And that's all that I have for today. I do want to leave you with an interesting research paper that I found. It's attributes of a great OSS maintainer, and I made a short link at dbatools.io/OSS paper. And it's really cool. It covers personality, technical aspects, and then social and management styles. So I think that you'll find that interesting. And thank you so much for watching my talk today. I hope that you've gotten some good insight and enjoyed some of the stories.